It's Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance on the Central Coast, and we are joined by John Ashbaugh, member of the San Luis Obispo City Council. And sir, in the past we have spoken about the homeless crisis, not only on the Central Coast, but around the state and the nation.
Yeah.
But recently there had been good news, at least in San Luis Obispo County, about homelessness dropping.
Yeah.
Is that still accurate?
Well, I hope so. As of January in 15, so just about a year ago,
Right.
when we did our point-in-time count, we found there were fewer people to be found, at least.
Sure.
And that meant at least we could talk about having made some progress. Now, there were still too many people who were counted as homeless in my book, 1,519, something like that. It was better than it had been, which was over 2,000. But we'd made even better progress with reducing veteran homelessness, for example. And we had set that as a goal. We want to eliminate, basically, to what we call functional zero for homeless veterans. In other words, there won't be any more homeless veterans becoming homeless than we're also sheltering. It takes a while sometimes. With every case is different. A lot of these men and women have post-traumatic stress disorder from combat experience or other things. So and actually 40% of the homeless generally have issues with mental health.
And are they willing to obtain and or receive services?
That's often a problem, as it is with anybody with a mental disorder, as anybody who has this in their family or among their friends will know. It's very difficult sometimes to get people to acknowledge it, and part of that has to do with the stigma that we associate with mental disorders.
But it's one thing to acknowledge. Will they even be willing to seek the intervention or speak with a therapist or take medication other than illicit substances?
Often they prefer to remain homeless, remain unsheltered somewhere in our creeks or an open space somewhere around the city, within the city, and not accept an offer of shelter, particularly if it means having to stay sober.
But here's the challenge with regard to shelter. We're now in a shelter crisis in San Luis Obispo County.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned sobriety. I want to get to that in a moment. But in terms of the shelter crisis, we have under 200 beds in San Luis Obispo County with over 1,000 unsheltered. And I believe the 1,000 that are unsheltered are not service resistant.
Many of them are not. Some of them are, and we have to find that out on a kind of case-by-case basis, as our mental health workers and our police officers are usually the first contact, because they get a complaint from people, and they go out, and once they've established that somebody has an issue with homelessness, they may not be violating any laws even, but we then have a little piece of paper that we give out to them. It looks like this. This is a little shirt pocket kind of guide to all the services that we have available for homeless persons, homeless households, and when they get that, they should know that there are people out there that are ready and able and willing to help them, and we have the funding for that kind of thing. For the first time, we're beginning to see resources put into the kinds of programs that these people need in order to get into permanent housing.
You discuss funding. As I understand it, as part of the shelter crisis, space is an issue, but because there's been an official crisis declared by the county, some public buildings can be used that wouldn't be used in the past. But the other challenge, though, is staffing.
Exactly.
And so
volunteers are needed.
Right.
And if anybody is out there listening to this and listening to us.
But is it just volunteers, or do we need professional staff as well?
Well, the professional staff really are we need both. And the Board of Supervisors, when they declared a shelter crisis on February 2nd, stated that we'll make $10,000 available for nonprofit organizations, which is actually a fair amount of money for there are 4 nonprofits currently in the county that operate the 4 different shelters that we have. And one of them, Capslow, has a fairly large professional staff. Not that large, not large enough, but they at least have a commitment to 24/7 homeless services. That includes the Prado Day Center and 3 miles away, the Maxine Lewis Homeless Shelter. Those are both going to be combined later this year. In fact, we hope by June.
We'll discuss this.
The groundbreaking for a new homeless 24/7
The county
shelter.
has also asked the 7 cities in this county to jump in and get involved.
Yes.
What is the city of San Luis Obispo doing? The largest city, I think, in the county.
It is.
Yeah.
And we are the county seat, and we are also the place where we have more homeless than any other, maybe not proportionally more, because there are an incredible number of homeless people up in North County, where it's colder.
I know.
You know?
And I want to talk about the cold. But so what is San Luis Obispo doing in the wake of this call from the county?
I'm quite confident that by the time this is aired, we'll have also declared a shelter crisis as well. I don't see any opposition from among my colleagues. The staff will probably bring that to us.
And what will that mean? I know in the county it means public public facilities can now open up that weren't previously used for homelessness.
It means any public facility that is owned by a governmental entity, including school districts, can be opened up for a warming station. Essentially,
and let's explain that, because that's an issue that has become critically important as we face this crisis.
Yeah, and during the El Nino winter, which we were having in January, right now it appears to be taking a little break from all of this. But it means that when people are going to be exposed to weather that could in fact kill people, and does kill people on a regular basis, to get out of the cold, out of the severe weather, we have places that are available where they'll have sleeping bags, they can spend the night, and they can avoid the worst of the overnight weather.
Let me ask you this, if I may, since you're a leader on the question of homelessness, you're part of the Homeless Services Authority Commission, is that right?
I'm chair of the Housing Subcommittee and a member of the Homeless Services Oversight Committee. I go to more meetings than I probably ever.
But I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, we are truly here in the state of California in a crisis like we have never seen.
Yes.
The U.S. Housing and Urban Development Department just issued a report which indicates that while California has 12% of the total population of this nation, 21% of the nation's homeless are in California. Yeah. Los Angeles County has the most homeless in the nation. It used to be the purview of New York. San Diego County has the fourth most in the nation. What's happening?
It's a crisis of affordability, Brad. And that's really where we have to look at comprehensive solutions. And in SLO County and in the city, we're really pursuing a kind of all of the above strategy. We're trying to approve more housing more quickly. I just learned today that there's a problem with labor shortages because of the resistance to immigration reform. We're not getting enough people to actually get out there as laborers to do the work required to build the new housing. Even if once we approve it, it's financed, it's ready to go, we can't get projects built fast enough.
Yeah, as I understand it, when you talk about housing, and not even so much housing to the extent that we're looking for housing for the homeless, but generally, California is in a housing crisis, especially on the coast, where we're not building enough homes for our population.
That's right.
And when we do, those homes aren't affordable on the coast.
Yeah, we're doing a better job in San Luis Obispo than we ever used to do. But even now, our housing authority and other organizations, nonprofits that we work with, like the Habitat for Humanity group, a regional group here in San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara counties, and elsewhere, is People's Self-Help Housing. They're looking for financing, and they're hoping to get it from a new bond issue that the state is going to be.
I forgot to mention that. We know the California State Senate is proposing a $2 billion bond that would be on the November ballot, I believe, if it goes. We're waiting to see if that happens.
Yeah, and I think at least part of those bonds would be retired with the monies from the
Prop 63.
63, exactly.
That's exactly
health
right.
Services. And that's appropriate because so many of our homeless, about 40%, like I said, have mental disorders. And by the way, I wanted to mention 70% of the homeless became homeless in our county. So they're not transients. They're not people that are just coming through. For the most part, you got a better than even chance. About 2 out of 3 of the homeless that you'll see are our friends, our neighbors who just got out of.
He is John Ashbaugh, the San Luis Obispo City Council member. My name is Brad Pomerance on the Central Coast. It's Charter Local Edition.